as you see here, Kendrick Perkins says the best thing to do is to bring James Harden off the bench rather than let him start and let Russell Westbrook stay within the starting lineup. And, hearing Kendrick Perkins talk about this or seeing it as you're reading it, it does make sense in regards to what he's saying, because in order for the Clippers to get where they need to go, Paul George has to play at his best along with Kawhi. We know what Kawhi is going to do. We know what to expect from Kawhi when the time is right. If he's healthy, Kawhi is going to give you all-time performance damn near every time he's on the floor in the playoffs. That's just what he does. That's why we call him playoff Kawhi. And, Kawhi in the playoffs is just different. A lot of NBA players have said it. And a lot of executive NBA people have said it in general, because they see the difference in Kawhi, that playoff Kawhi, in regard to the regular season. He is a totally different animal, and he is a force to be reckoned with, and he is elite at the highest level. In order for them to win a championship, though, like Perkins said, they're going to have to get the best out of Paul George. And if you think about the way Paul George is playing this year, according to what Perk said, he's playing, one of his best years. And he had one of his best seasons years ago with Russell Westbrook, him and Russ playing on OKC. So, Perkins has a point, but I just don't know if it's really going to pan out that way, because when you think about Russ being able to contribute to Paul George's game to allow Paul George to play at an elite level, that's good. But that's an individual player. You need the whole team playing at an elite level, which is the reason why OKC, when Russ and Paul George were together, they got knocked out, I think, the first round against a Damian Lillard team in the Blazers, who I think shouldn't have beaten them. I don't even think the Blazers had LaMarcus Aldridge at that time, which LaMarcus Aldridge was the guy prior to Damian Lillard, getting to Portland. But LaMarcus Aldridge, I think, was either gone or he was, too old to even be who he was, the all-star he was prior to, him getting older. So, I understand where Kendrick Perkins is making a point in regards to the production of PG is very high. He's shooting at a very high clip. He's playing at a very, elite level right now. And definitely, rightfully so. But we've seen Paul George play at elite level without, Russell Westbrook in his career. Because when he was on Indiana, he was an even better player than what he was when he was on OKC with Russ. You see what I'm saying? So we've seen him play at an elite level without Russell Westbrook. It's just really up to him to mentor his game to the point where it's effective when needed and effective when it needs to be in big moments, which is the playoffs. Whether who the point guard is, he has to be effective regardless. It's because he's a star player. And that's why I said I get where Perkins is coming from, and he makes sense in what he's saying. But the problem is, when you look at what Ty Lue said post-game after they lost to the Lakers the other day, Ty Lue said, when they asked him the question about were you thinking about inserting Harden or where Harden would fit in when you look at the offense, and Ty Lue responded, all 53 minutes, I was thinking about that. Because when you think about Russ, Russ is turnover worthy, but so is James Harden. But Russ is number one in turnover. James Harden is number two. And which I know that doesn't make much difference, but it is a difference. You know what I'm saying? Because if James Harden is a little less worthy of turning the ball over, and he passes the ball more at a higher, he passes the ball, gets assists at a higher clip than Russell Westbrook has, or at least rather than what Russ has done in a few years since he was the triple-double king, then I can see the reason why Ty Lue putting the ball in James Harden's hands more so than Russ. I think it's going to be a collective effort of both. I don't really think it's just going to be like one guy predominantly, holding the ball. I think it's just going to have to be a collective effort. You know what I'm saying? There might even be times where you see Kawhi and PG bring the ball up the court and, get into their set and then give it off to, Russ or James Harden to, set the play up. There could be times like that, but I think it's really going to be by committee between Russ and James Harden, who brings the ball up and who's the primary point guard at that point in time, depending on who the lineup is and how they all gel. So, as I said, I get where Perkins is coming from. He's not wrong in what he's saying, but I just think totality-wise, you got to look at James Harden a little bit more, because last year he led the league in assists, and he did it at a pretty decent clip. And I think he was one of the main reasons why Joel Embiid, won the MVP, because he had a assist guy like that who was a threat from three. And that's another thing, what I'm saying, is Russ going to continue shooting at the high clip from the 3-point line that he is currently right now, or maybe the highest he's ever shot in his career currently right now, what he's shooting? That's probably not going to last all season. Having James Harden out there being the point guard, even though he is a ball dominant guy, which I kind of feel like that might, hurt the chances of it working out to a degree. But one thing you can say, James Harden can shoot way better from the 3-point line. He stretches the floor a lot better. He could pass the ball at a high clip. He led the league in assists last year. And he's still able to do that. And like I said, if James Harden is on the perimeter, let's say PG or Kawhi has the ball in isolation where they have a mismatch, but somebody runs over and gives a double team. Well, passing out to James Harden on the perimeter, the 3-point line, your percentages of him making that big 3-point shot is a lot higher, him making it rather than Russ making it. And this is the thing, because they got Kawhi and PG, the crazy part is, with them two players being so dominant the way they are and so good, James Harden really might just be a catch and shoot guy. He really might not have to be a player like he was on the other teams where, he has to handle the ball, step back jumper, hit threes, do all that stuff, penetrate, all that. He might only have to do it at times because of Kawhi and PG's excellence on the floor offensively. Where if he's, like I said, I'd rather have James Harden on the perimeter, while Kawhi or PG is getting double teamed and they kick it out to him. I like his chances of hitting that shot a lot more than I do Russell Westbrook. And I think that's what Ty Lue is looking at. And I think that's what the whole Clippers organization is looking at, because Russ, he'll have moments where he shoots good during the season from the three, but eventually he'll round out the form of what he really is, which is one of, if not the worst 3-point shooter in NBA history, according to Skip Bayless. So if that's the case, you got to think long term. In long term, I don't know if Russ is the answer long term in regards to what they're going to need offensively from him. He's going to, like the way he played the other night against the Lakers, if he can give you that most nights, you're good. But is he going to give you that? Is he going to shoot that well from the 3-point range most nights? Probably not, because that's not his strong suit. That's not Russ's game. His game is more penetrating to the basket, running the floor, finding players in transition, and making up for the offense that way. And see, that's Russ's game. James Harden game is more isolation. He could be ball dominant, but he is a great he's a great underrated passer, but he also is a deadly shooter from out there. So, if it's a catch and shoot thing with him, or if he passes the ball off and run to the corner or spot up at the top of the key, he can knock that shot down way more than Russ can, which puts more onus, puts more pressure on the defense of the opposing team. And that's what the Clippers are looking at. I think that's what Ty Lue is going to ultimately go with. So even though Russ is helping Paul George play at one of his highest peaks of his career, that's not what the Clippers are out for. They're out to win a championship. Paul George averaging 27 points a game. We've seen him do that before, with and without Russ. So my point is, numbers is not what we need. We need winning, and winning involves sacrificing. It involves understanding your role, and it involves everybody playing at a high clip and less turnover worthy. That's what winning is going to involve. And if a guy is just getting his numbers and his usual numbers when he's actually healthy and stuff like that, that hasn't helped the Clippers win a championship so far. PG has put up plenty of numbers with the Clippers. He had games last year where he was out there dropping 40 points, Western Conference Player of the Week, all that stuff, but it didn't equate to anything because they didn't win a championship. Now, you could say it's due to health, but it doesn't matter. When they were in the conference finals against the Suns, there was an opportunity there. Paul George putting up good numbers, but it doesn't equate to anything if it doesn't equate to winning. And that's why I said they have to be more offensive based team wise rather than just offensive based through isolation or one player getting their numbers. That's the problem with the Clippers. It has to be more fluidity through their offense. Of course, Kawhi and PG eat first, but everybody else has to contribute and eat as well to make it feel like they're a part of the team and they're contributing. Because if it's all isolation and take turn basketball, which I see at times with the Clippers, hopefully maybe James Harden, if he plays right and act right, can help with that. then they would probably, not win if it's that type of style of play of basketball. So I mean, even though Russ helps PG a lot, but it doesn't necessarily mean it helps the team win, because if you look at their record is 3-2. It's not like they're 4-1, 5-1, or 6-0. So I mean, yeah, it helps. It helps Paul George play at a high clip, but this needs to happen in the playoffs. If he's doing this in the playoffs, that's when it matters. And on top of that, if it's really that, detrimental or really that high as Wade Perkins is saying, then like I said, the Clippers' record would be better. They wouldn't have lost to a team like the Utah Jazz. You see what I'm saying? Because it's like losses like that come back and hurt you over time. You just have to try to make up for them. But like I said, you are what your record is right now. They're 3-2. And that's a little bit above average record. And that's not really what we expect from the Clippers. I expect them to really be 4-1 bare minimum at this point, based upon the competition that they've played. That's what I expect. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. But more so, I think they're going to have to implement James Harden more, because they want a little bit less turnovers and they want more high efficient passing. And some of the when you look at that game against the Lakers, some of those turnovers that Russ had late in the game where he fell on the floor and the ball fell out of his hand and nobody was near him. I mean, see, those type of turnovers really irritate a coach a lot. And that's what I'm saying. James Harden is probably not going to have much of those. You see what I'm saying? Those are like demoralizing type turnovers that you shake your head as a coach and be like, what the hell is this guy doing? You see what I'm saying? So those blunder moments that Russ has probably has irritated Ty Lue a little bit. So, I mean, I don't know if Russ is going to have to run the second unit or not, or they're going to keep him in the starting lineup over time. But I think they're going to implement James Harden a little bit more than what people might think, because look at all they did to go after him and get him. It was a whole summer of talk. It was a whole off season, and now they finally got him. And, with all that they went through to get him, I'm pretty sure they're going to, make him closer to the forefront than Russell Westbrook. So if that's the case, Clippers fans are going to have to go with it and deal with it. But hey, that's my take on everything. Leave any comments and we'll talk about it.